Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Fiber Broadband Association's Five for Breakfast. We're now in our fourth episode of 2026. Before we kick off, I'd like to thank Wesco, our platinum sponsor of Five for Breakfast. In Washington this week, the House is in recess, leaving the legislative action primarily with the Senate. Following the recent tragic and high-profile events, a major funding standoff has increased the likelihood of a partial government shutdown, with the current funding deadline set for this upcoming Friday, January 30th. At the same time, Congress has continued to advance key priorities, including broadband with the Commerce, Justice, and Science Appropriation Bill, where NTI's funding is housed and was signed into law by the President as part of the minibus package last Friday, January 23rd. FBA will continue to closely monitor developments on Capitol Hill and engage with policymakers to ensure broadband priorities remain on track during this period of uncertainty. NTI also will be holding a listening session on Wednesday, February 11th from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern to seek stakeholder input on how BEAD non-deployment funds should be used. The Fiber Broadband Association continues to work closely with NTI over the future of these 20 billion plus non-deployment funds, as well as ways to streamline and accelerate broadband deployment. Next week, on Thursday, February 5th, the Fiber Broadband Association will be kicking off our first regional Fiber Connect workshop for the year in Oklahoma City at the Okana Resort with a focus on tribal broadband. And this is shaping up to be the biggest regional event that we've ever had in our history. I hope that you guys will see us, and if you haven't signed up, sign up really quick, because I think this one's going to definitely be at capacity. And also, as a reminder, we're going to host our Public Policy Summit and Fly-In D.C. on February 24th and 25th, bringing members together with congressional leaders, administration officials, and federal agency stakeholders to focus on how we can bring high-speed, reliable connectivity to all Americans. And last week on Five for Breakfast, our guest was researcher Elizabeth Parks, the president and CMO of Parks Associates. She discussed consumer study, assistive technologies for older adults. Parks Associates surveys over 8,000 U.S. internet households, and one of the clearest trends Elizabeth shared with us is the rapid movement towards connected living. Nearly half of all U.S. households have at least one smart home device, and average home supports 17 connected devices, ranging from streaming TVs and security cameras to sensors and voice assistants. This in-home connectivity is enabling a robust caregiver market, as Parks Associates estimates that 30 million households include someone who is currently caring for an older adult or expects to be doing so within 5 years. That represents a quarter of all U.S. households. So this is just a giant market, and getting broadband to all Americans is becoming more critical as we go forward. So if you missed last week's Five for Breakfast, you can go to our website and watch the replay. Today on Five for Breakfast, our guest is our good friend Eric Bathras, the Chief Technical Officer of the Office of Infrastructure of Maryland's Department of Information Technology, discuss cracking the code on broadband coordination inside the single view. Eric's the Chief Technology Officer for the Office of Infrastructure in Maryland's Department of Information Technology, DO-IT, bringing together over 30 years of experience in broadband networks across public and private sectors. In his role, he leads the critical state infrastructure programs, including Network Maryland, Maryland MD First, Cloud and Data Center Services, and DO-IT's infrastructure agreements. Prior to rejoining DO-IT, Eric served as the global broadband leader at AECOM, where he led broadband and smart city initiatives on local, national, and international levels. His career is marked by leading cross-functional teams and delivering complex technology projects. So with all that, welcome, Eric. And for our audience, please type in your questions to go, and we'll work those in discussion. So I will turn things over to Eric.
Good morning, Gary. Thanks. It's great to be back, and always great to see you and be part of FBA's Fiber for Breakfast. So yeah, we in Maryland, we ended up identifying an issue that wasn't just Maryland only, right? This is something I saw in my previous life at AECOM, going around to different states, that there was this massive gap of being able to go to one place to see and to be able to navigate all the broadband and digital infrastructure assets across the state from a public sector perspective. So what we ended up doing is we ended up drafting an executive order that Governor Moore signed January 1 of 2025, bringing 11 state agencies together, establishing the Digital Infrastructure Group called DIG. Creative name, I know, right? So we ended up, as part of DIG, it brought these agencies together that own broadband assets, but also own vertical assets like towers, real estate assets, and then also DHCD, who's responsible for all the community needs for un- and underserved areas. And it was critical for us to be able to pull together those agencies, which are also public safety is blended in there as well, where we can start and begin to identify areas of shared need and areas of where we end up being in a position to pull together joint projects versus going it alone. So that's where we ended up establishing DIG, and then from one of the main key outcomes of DIG is the single view. And single view, I'll share here shortly what that looks like and walk you through it. But single view has all of our real estate assets, all of our tower assets, ITS assets, our CAIs, our fiber infrastructure, and then all of our needs across the state from an underserved homes and businesses. And what we do is our approach here in Maryland is the Goldilocks approach, where what that means is, Gary, is one single investment and goes and serves the broadest of needs. And there's four key pillars to this Goldilocks approach. Pillar one is transportation variables. So all the ITS devices, for instance, we want to be able to track and document those. But when it comes to a build, we want to take those into account. Pillar two are vertical assets. So towers, could be even buildings that are owned by the state. And then three are government institutions. So again, CAIs. And then pillar four is community needs on and underserved homes and businesses. So with those four pillars of the Goldilocks approach, we have one single public investment serving the broadest of needs. What's typically done, is one investment serves that agency's mission on the public sector side. So we're broadening that out, and we can have a statewide coordination across the state to be able to pull together projects and then go after funding. And we also have four pillars for funding strategy for DIG and single view, which is pillar one is federal funding. Pillar two is state operational funding. Pillar three is state capital funding. And then pillar four is resource share agreements. And Maryland is very unique, Gary, with its ability to sign agreements with the private industry to either get in-kind benefits or revenue from their partnership with the state. So what we have here, Gary, can you see that okay?
Yep, looks great.
Yeah, so today the state of Maryland, we have a real estate services called DGS, and they control all of our assets, whether they're state-owned buildings, whether they're leased buildings, and then the leases within those. Why this is super important is we have Network Maryland that serves all the CAIs. And for DGS, when agencies move, it's critically important that they know that Network Maryland service is there. If it isn't, it adds anywhere from 2 to 6 months before we can deliver Network Maryland service there. So from a connectivity standpoint and speed to market for Network Maryland to be able to serve those agencies, DGS going, oh, Network Maryland is within that building. That's hugely important. So, for instance, here this is an on-net location. The Office of Comptroller's there. It has the address, but again, Network Maryland is the provider, and it's an owned building. And this we have what is currently being delivered there in terms of speed and service. So this again helps our facilities and DGS folks to be able to get agency moves very quickly across the state. And again, it saves us anywhere from 2 to 6 months, which is pretty remarkable compared to what it used to be. We also have, sorry about that. We also have, Gary, our tower assets. So our towers in single view, they also generate revenue for the state. And today we do about $2 million for our RSAs across the state. And so again, this is one of our key pillars of DIG, is to be able to utilize funding from our RSA program. For RSAs, we have about 41. And what this shows you here, Gary, is the green towers are all the ones we have RSAs on. So what we're able to do is be able to target where we could go to the market and set goals for ourselves to say, hey, we're looking to increase RSA revenue by 50% or 100% for the next fiscal year. So that can help fund initiatives within the DIG program and the DIG initiative. But when we click on these towers, we end up seeing that who owns the tower, what vendors on the tower. As you can see, Verizon's on there, the height of the tower. And this is, again, really important for us, which I'll show you in the Goldilocks layer, having all that information in there. Because the other problem we solved with this was our real estate agency, DGS, and all of our tower owners. There's about 8 agencies that own towers. There wasn't really a visual representation that they could go to one single platform to manage all of the state's assets. So within each of the selections on the towers, again, they can build this out. They can put their loading capacity on here, who's their contractor, what type of generator, whatever they need to be able to utilize information and data for that location, they're able to do. And they can build that out. So now we have a centrally managed tower management platform, which again can help from a funding standpoint go to and create potential tower initiatives like getting fiber to towers, which is hugely important, and one of the things that one of the projects that I'm working up today. And then I'll go to the Goldilocks layer. So I'll go to the Goldilocks layer and show you what we have here. And this is really where we are focusing on where we are going to create projects from, Gary. And what you see is the heat map is on and underserved areas. The orange locations are unserved CAIs. The green dots here are ITS devices. Here's all of our fiber running through. So when we start to identify projects, we want to make sure that if we can go 4 for 4 for the pillars, right? Transportation, vertical assets, CAIs, and un- and underserved homes and businesses. If we can go 4 for 4, we know that we are maximizing that single public dollar investment that will serve the broadest of needs.
Hey, Eric,
So,
couple quick questions, and this kind of goes to the audience question of, does the dig inventory and map only, are you mapping only assets under the control of the participating agencies, or does it include the private sector? And then as a part of that, when you say towers, are these all state agency towers? And when you say Verizon, that's a tenant, or do you have any of the private sector assets in this?
yeah, great question. So from a private sector, we have layers that contains private sector data on here. So we do have layers for that. And for the tower piece, those are state-owned towers. And then we also have a layer that has all of the private sector towers that are in there as well.
And then is what about dark fiber and the private sector? Like when you have all your fiber routes, those are all state and state agency fiber.
Yeah, so this is state agency fiber, and then we do also have other layers from like Geotel, fiber locator that are in here as well that depict and show, excuse me, show the private sector fiber throughout the state as well.
I mean, typically providers are a little shy to let their competitors know where all their assets are. Is that you don't run into that kind of problem?
So the single view is for only the members of DIG for their view and interaction. So so the agencies that the public sector agencies that are part of DIG, which are 11 agencies, only have access to single view. And then the layers that we have for the dark fiber are on subscription based from Geotel and Fiber Locator. So those are already within subscription based inventory, fiber inventory platforms that you can get on the market.
And what about public safety? Or do you map like video cameras and all the public safety assets in this as well?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Gary. So what we're doing today is as we're building out the as we get deeper and deeper into single view, we have ITS assets, for instance. So these green dots here are ITS assets. So this is a ITS M.dot device. This is a camera here, Gary. It does not show the video feed. They have their own platform, M.dot does, that they utilize for chart and so forth. What this depicts is what type of ITS device they have. And what's important about that is some of these ITS devices, actually quite a few of them, if not all, are running on legacy T1s, for instance. So one of the things that we're working on is getting fiber in those areas so we can serve those ITS devices. One of the things that we have looked at is blending technology. So we're looking at different types of technologies that, if we were to get to a tower, what we're able to hit from that tower. But for example, in certain areas, we want to make sure that, we know if, for instance, we have several ITS devices here, CAIs, we have a tower. So we want to be in a position that if we were to build fiber out in this area, we know that, hey, there's transportation variables, there's a CAI, there's a vertical asset, and there's un and underserved areas very close in proximity to the CAIs and the tower and the ITS devices. So for us, that's a 4 out of 4. And what we end up doing is taking a look at what type of location is here. It's an M.dot location that, and we'll see what type of bandwidth is on here. So it currently has a T1 at that location. And we'll look to convert that, in the future. We'll look to convert that. So these are the types of projects that we're looking at. And throughout the state. one of the big items, as I had mentioned before, is, you know, it's incredibly important to get fiber to towers, because that really can unlock our opportunity to generate revenue. You know, from an RSA standpoint, getting fiber there. And then it can also enable, you know, services over the top that can hit, you know, CAIs or ITS devices. One of the features we have here too is, you know, we're able to measure distances out for, sorry about that, it's this one. We're able to measure distances out for if we were to do like a fixed wireless solution, right? We're fiber first, but we also look at these opportunities. So we're able to say, hey, if we're within a 5-mile radius, you know, for different technologies, what else could we hit or serve? We're able to do that off a single view as well.
So when you look at your pillars, transportation, vertical assets, which I assume means towers, community anchor, and then community, such as businesses and homes. How does things like, railroads, does that fit under transportation? And what about utilities? Do you guys coordinate with utilities? I'm just thinking about like the major weather event that just hit the East Coast, and obviously Maryland was part of that. I think you guys had 10 inches and ice and all that stuff. Does this become critical or important element of emergency management, and when you have these kind of state of emergency situations?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the things that I'm working closely with our state interoperability coordinator on elements of, you know, from a resiliency standpoint beyond just the state network. So we are pulling together, you know, what type of data and information do we want to put within single view? So when there is an event, a snow event like we just had last weekend, you know, can single view be that platform where when we call a state of emergency and pull together our emergency management agencies, you know, can single view be that platform to track power outages, to track you know, different types of data and information off of that. So when you look at the building layer, think of that as, you know, just one layer in itself. Is there, you know, could there be a transmission layer or a distribution layer from that standpoint on the power side? So those are things that we are looking to continue to build out single view, so it can really serve the operational needs of other agencies. I do want to touch on one element, Gary, that when we met back in a few months ago back in Annapolis, this is really important in terms of the value of single view. You know, what we ended up doing is we identified an area within the state. We worked with one of our resource share partners, Maryland Broadband Co-op, and they identified a grant, applied for that grant. We contributed dollars to that grant. And the result of that is we are going to get, we as the state, as Do It, is going to get 26 miles of 96 fiber for a $250,000 contribution, which is tremendous, right? This saves us well over $3.5 million. And then we have from a Goldilocks approach, the Broadband Co-op serves the homes and businesses with their members. We have ITS devices in that location. We have CAI in that location, and it cut our distance to a tower from several miles to about 1,500 feet. So we are, you know, that is the first use case since the creation of DIG. And we're getting those types of results from this statewide coordinated planning.
Yeah, I mentioned utilities. Are you working as utilities going to become part of this single view?
Yeah, so that's where we haven't decided yet on how deep and wide we want to go with that. But what I can say is we are designating, and we'll have, and we already have designations through single view that show us from an aerial plant versus an underground plant. So that's the extent of today, but that's something that I'm working with our SWIC on, what do we want to cover from a utility space standpoint, right? So, that's something that we're working on today.
Yeah, it just seems like this would be a perfect, if you have any kind of state of emergencies, not just weather related, but related to anything, to be able to manage everything to keep the state up and running. It seems like this would be an awesome view to be able to leverage that. How does AI fit into this? Are you leveraging, so one, I can see this really, obviously Maryland has a lot of water, and I don't know what you have in the way of energy, but as we see more hyperscalers move in and ability to leverage the single view to really make state Maryland an attractive place for hyperscalers. But I could also see this being a very attractive place for quantum networks, given the assets you have.
Yeah. So, one of the things that when we spoke a few months ago, you're offering up pillar 5 is AI, right? To the Goldilocks approach, and I think that's spot on, Gary. We have data centers in single view, but what we're doing is we are notating that we're in the process of notating those differently, and we want to, from a state's position, we want to make sure we have access and connectivity from a fiber perspective to those data center locations. So we're currently working on an opportunity within the state of Maryland, and I don't want to get ahead of the governor's office on this, but we are working on some opportunities that, from an AI perspective, we want to make sure that we are connected to those AI hyperscaler data centers, whether they are within Maryland or just on the border. Those are hugely important. So from a connectivity standpoint and getting there. The other piece is we are working on operationalizing AI within single view. So think of it as being able to, and we're working with our partner, Esri, on this. I say partner, they're our vendor, where we can operationalize it and give it the prompts on the Goldilocks approach, and be able to feed that into the AI bot and be able to come out and say, okay, hey, we are looking to where are the top 3 builds that we can do that can take into account, transportation, vertical assets, CAIs, and community needs, and what would those costs be? What would that route be? So we're working with Esri on how we can build that out so we can get faster to projects, which then helps us identify these either well ahead of any federal grants, but also going to the state and being able to get request funding from an OpEx or a CapEx standpoint, from a state budget standpoint.
Well, Eric, I have always just get so excited about when we talk, and just the fact that your single view not only creates a lot of collaboration between public and private sectors, but provides great visibility to the state on their assets, to be able to save tons of money for taxpayers, and it puts you guys in great position for grants and continue to build out Maryland's network. So congratulations on the work that you and your team are doing. It's just really exciting stuff. And anytime you want me up in Annapolis, I love it up there. Maybe not and when it's frozen, but when the sun comes up.
Absolutely, Gary. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us today and look forward to getting back together next Wednesday. I have our good friend Assad Ramzanati, who's the Director of Artificial Intelligence and Technology Policy at Vanderbilt, Vanderbilt's Policy Accelerator. And he's going to discuss monopoly in the machine, AI's chips, and the battle for network innovation. So you're not going to want to miss that. Assad was on the president's, was advisor to the president and was in the science and technology at the White House. So he's an expert in this area, and that's going to be a great discussion. So I look forward to seeing you guys next Wednesday. And Eric, stay safe and enjoy your time with your children out west.